Well, Jim, let's get another question here from the Cult of Cornette Facebook group. This one was sent by no one. I'm not going to use that one. Hold on. Let me go up here a little. I can't ask you a question about talent I know you haven't seen. Marcus Rose would like to know, would Nick Bockwinkel have been a good NWA champion?
Oh, God, yes. Short version. And some people may say, well, after Flair, you needed the champion needed to be more flamboyant or more colorful, but that was pretty much the end of Nick's career by the time that Flair had a lock on it in the mid-'80s. Nick Bockwinkel, in my opinion, was every bit as talented and excellent in every way, in-ring work, psychology, his promos, his demeanor, the whole 9 yards, as Harley or Dory or Terry in his own way, completely different individuals, or any of the other, Pat O'Connor, any of your NWA champions from, the mid 50s, from Thez, who was completely different, but from Thez on to Flair, Bockwinkel was as good in the ring and on the microphone as pretty much Terry had such a longer career and worked different styles in different eras, but when he was NWA champion, Bockwinkel in his prime, his work was as good as what Terry's was defending the NWA title. Nick was very underrated by a lot of people today because by the time that early 80s video came along and Bockwinkel is tearing the house down with Lawler in Memphis. His matches at that point were better than they were in the AWA because Lawler was a better opponent. And honestly, they meshed. That's why Nick said that Lawler was the best ring general he'd been in a ring with as far as calling something for his people, his crowd in Memphis and that territory. But Bockwinkel was already almost 50 by that point. And he was still performing at a high level, but in the 70s, he was one of the best in the business.
So he would have been a good NWA champion when?
At almost any juncture, had they decided to pull the trigger on it, he didn't have the Funk family lobbying for him or Fritz von Erich at his corner. He didn't have any of the major NWA promoters, lobbying for him because he'd been featured as a main event babyface in a variety of places, Georgia in the 60s and Southern California and various places. But he'd never been a heel until he went to work for Vern. In 1970, he'd been wrestling almost 20 years. And when Vern made him the intellectual wrestling heel with the big vocabulary and the condescending manner, from that point, he and Stevens were the best tag team in the world in the ring. He was a perennial AWA champion, but he worked with a more limited pool of talent there because Vern either liked himself, and Vern was over the hill at that point, or the gimmick baby faces like Crusher and Mad Dog Vachon. So when Bockwinkel got in the ring with a younger guy that could fucking go and could work, he could tear the house down. But a lot of the AWA matches and then the stuff that survives on video besides of him in Memphis is not indicative. He went to Japan remember that there was a Bockwinkel Ricky Steamboat match for Baba at one point, and that was, wow, we never see that in the United States. But I think Bockwinkel was fucking tremendous. Just so good.